Thank you. No, I'm talking to the Sanchez folks.
Oh, okay.
Okay. I'm sorry. Go ahead. Hello? Oh, hang on 1 second here. Let me get back to here. Uh you're okay. Wait, okay, give me one, get rid of that. Okay, so let me see here. Okay. Oh, does it? Okay. Do I need to add more light? Okay, give me 1 second. Uh, oh shoot. That's too. Oh, I'll do it this way. I'll do it this way. Huh. I thought I had. That won't work. So. Okay. This. If this works. There we go. There we go. All right. How's that? Okay. Good. All right. hmm
1 second here. Let me find. This isn't it. Crap. Okay. Hold on. Let me get my earpiece on. Hello? Can you hear me? Wonderful. Uh, 20, 20. 19, 18, 17, 16, 15, 14, 13, 12, 11, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Wonderful.
Hayden's taking a nap. Jesus Christ. Eh? Good to go. Need that old IFB. I'm going to drop it. The IFB. Ready? Got it? I dropped it. It's right here. It was already dropped. It was down. It was down all the way. It couldn't have been any further down. It was at my knees. What happened? Okay, that should be good. Okay, the boys ready? Let's do it. Thank you, Marcos.
Her staff, the first thing I do is cut out all the words individually, and then I take those
What am I
words
hearing?
to my work.
That was weird. I was hearing.
Sounds kind of Kamala Harris-esque.
Oh, you were playing some of the sound bites. Got it. Gentlemen, how in the hell are we?
As Curly used to always say, I think he means us. When the Three Stooges would walk in and they'd say, gentlemen, he'd say, I think he means us.
I think it means us. Oh my God. Yeah.
Wise guy.
Oh, you were asking what you were hearing. What you were hearing was in the moment in which you had not existed.
Oh,
because that moment had not arrived.
Oh my God.
But now that we are all here,
yes,
we are in the moment.
These are strange times to live in this world. It's a strange time to be an earthling. But we got good stuff. You guys are gonna like the menu. Very enjoyable. Let's get going. All right, here we go. Let's do it. Hi, everybody. I'm Rick Sanchez, and this is the Week in Review.
We just shut down all the roads, Mr. President.
everybody. I'm Rick Sanchez, and this, as you've come to expect, is the Week in Review.
We just shut down all the roads, Mr. President. You're going to lose all the votes if you don't get in.
For the last 3.5 years, House Republicans and the American people have been demanding details about Joe Biden's mental and physical decline.
Okie dokie. Just two of the hits that we're going to play for you. Mr. Biden continues to stumble and mumble. Republicans just can't seem to leave well enough alone. And now, yes, the whole world is watching. I'm Rick Sanchez, and this is Direct Impact. What do you say we do it? Okay, let's get started by introducing you to our panel who've been dealing with these topics themselves. They're going to share their unbridled perspective with us here. They are the hosts of the Critical Hour on Radio Sputnik. Great show. Look for it. Dr. Wilmer Leon and Garland Nixon, both good enough to join us. So, all right, gentlemen, it's gotten so bad. It's gotten so bad because it seems that right now for the president, there is simply just no place to hide. Now that the cat's out of the bag, the cameras are constantly on him. He's now stumbled his way through a debate, a very public July 4th Independence Day event, and the latest, the NATO summit of all things. Yeah, got to show them to you. Here's the lowlights.
One last thing. You know, I used to think when I was a senator, there were always congestion on the highways. There's no congestion anymore. None. We go on the highway, there's no congestion. And so the way they get me to stop talking, they'll say, we just shut down all the roads, Mr. President. You're going to lose all the votes if you don't get in. The allies in this room not only share a common language, don't share a common language. We do not share a common border, but we are neighbors. We're neighbors.
What? We just don't. My goodness, my God, bless him, please, Lord. I don't know what to say. I don't know where this is going to end up, but with every day we turn on the TV and we see more and more of these, and I don't know if you guys are like me, but I'm just saying, God, please make this stop. I don't know what to say anymore. Garland, I'll let you start.
Well, I think the one of the things that we've been talking about a lot is the reality that America and the world is learning that the president doesn't run, the current president doesn't run the United States, and that probably implies that most of the time the president doesn't really run the United States, that to some extent they can be a ceremonial figure. And the other part of the discussion is that if Joe Biden is not competent to be president for the next 4 years, which clearly he isn't, then he isn't competent to be president for the next 4 months.
He's not competent enough to finish a sentence. I mean, Wilmer, did you think it was this bad? I mean, I know you talked about it. I talked about it. We were way ahead of this story before everybody else. But just, I don't know, maybe it's the media piling on. Maybe I'm a victim of our own thing. But it just seems like lately, man, this thing is bad. I mean, really bad.
Well, and hence the term cognitive decline.
Yeah.
Did we think it was this bad? No, because 4 months ago it wasn't this bad. But if you understand the deterioration process, then you know things don't get better, they only get worse.
But I want to give you fodder, if you will, for what you're saying right now. Here's a New York Times report. You probably read this. You're a very well-read guy. You both are. You're in this business. New York Times just broke a story a couple days ago. According to the logs, you know, at the White House, every time somebody goes in, they got to put them in a log and say who they are and what's your business and all that crap. Well, they have a log at the White House of all the people that come in and out of the White House. A neurologist who is an expert on Parkinson's has visited the White House once a month, every month for the past 8 months. Fact.
Right.
But watch what happens when Karine Jean-Pierre is asked about this simple fact.
So every year, around the president's physical examination, he sees a neurologist. That's 3 times, right? So I am telling you that he has seen a neurologist 3 times while he has been in this presidency. That's what I'm saying. I am telling you that he has seen them 3 times. For security reasons, we cannot share names. We cannot share names. We have to.
Others he would have met with.
We
but
cannot.
You can share names in regards to if someone came here in regards to the president.
We cannot share names of specialists broadly, from a dermatologist to a neurologist. We cannot share names. There are security reasons. We have to protect.
It's public information.
I hear you.
And you're going to allow this to fester longer, Karine, unless those are the
hold on a
questions.
second. There's no reason to go back and forth and be in this aggressive way.
Miffed around here about how information's been shared with the press corps about him.
What do you missed about? What do you missed
Everything
about?
is asked about.
And then every time I come back and I answer the question that you guys asked.
Correctly, then have to come back and clean up.
I never answered the question incorrectly.
If that's answering the question correctly, then I'm the Queen of Norway. I'll let you finish, Mr. King.
Well, Your Highness. So there are a couple of problems here. One, this is what happens when you're not transparent. This is, what do they say? When you tell a lie or when you try to mislead, now you're stuck with the bit. And she's sticking with the bit. Because initially they were telling us that the neurologist wasn't there.
Right.
I guess he was an invisible neurologist. Now that we know that the neurologist is there, why? Because they are obviously concerned with what we have been saying. The stiffness that you see is the onset of Parkinson's. The other problem here, to Garland's point, is never underestimate the blindness that attends arrogance. And Joe Biden is in this position as it relates to, do I stay or do I go? Primarily because his arrogance, his ego, will not allow him nor members of his family to deal with the reality. It's time to go. And this isn't an age issue. This is a cognitive decline issue. People 30 years old have Parkinson's.
Yeah. And it's fine. It doesn't make him a bad human being. Some of the horrible crap he's done as the commander-in-chief makes him a horrible human being. But the fact that no one there can just admit to his problems is like, once again, a Fellini movie in reverse. Meanwhile, the whole country, I mean, everybody knows now that there's something horribly wrong with the president's mental and physical fitness. And it's killing his polls. It's killing his chances of winning. And by the way, it's killing his party. Okay? Senate, goodbye. I mean, Democrats in the Senate, bye-bye. Democrats in the House, bye-bye. See you later. Anyway, given that scenario, you would think that Republicans would just shut up about this, right? Leave well enough alone. They don't need to even engage in this conversation. Stay the hell out. But you know what? They can't help themselves. They're starving for attention over there. So Republicans, call a group conference yesterday, a news conference, 2 days ago, pardon me, to say, I told you so, even though they did not really tell us so. Here it is.
Good morning. There is no longer any doubt that Joe Biden is unfit to be our commander-in-chief. The Biden White House, far-left House Democrats, and the mainstream media are in complete disarray because they know this to be true and have been caught participating in one of the greatest media cover-ups in American history. For the last 3.5 years, House Republicans and the American people have been demanding details about Joe Biden's mental and physical decline.
Here's what I've seen House Republicans do for the last 3 years. They've been holding hearings, trying to convince me and the American people that Joe Biden was an evil genius who had cut these backdoor deals with China, had $2 or $3 million deals negotiated with Ukraine and several other countries, and was actually one of the most brilliant business minds, I guess, that's ever existed. Corrupt, yes, they said, but look at all these things he's done. Now they want us to think that that guy that they had all these hearings about explaining that is the guy that they're now telling us is this stumbling, mumbling old man who can't even put a sentence together. You know what? I'm sorry, Garland. I don't think you can have it both ways. And I still think they should stay the hell out of this conversation.
Yeah, I agree. And what we're looking at here is something important, and that is alternative media. Wilmer and I, you were talking about it for literally years, but for the last year, we've been showing videos of Joe Biden doing similar things that he did during the debate. So on the alternative media, we all knew that Joe Biden was in a bad situation for a long time, which tells me this. So did the people around him, and so did the Republicans. They're not stupid. So the people around him, I would argue, and I theorize, that's why they rigged the primaries, why they wouldn't even allow anyone else. Oh, literally, they had Marianne Williamson, Dean Smith running. They wouldn't put their name on the ballots in a bunch of states
They pushed them
because
out.
they knew they had to. Right. They knew they had to get rid of Joe Biden at some time, and they didn't want somebody in second place that could stake a claim. Now they can just choose anybody they wanted to. And the Republicans are not offering any significant policies that will help the working class. So they're happy to talk about this rather than say, he's terrible. And if you put us in power, here's what we'll do to help you. But none of them are going to do that.
But they're not innocent in this thing either. I don't remember them making this a big issue. I remember them making, Biden and his son and his brother and his lawyers were all doing deals with China and doing deals here and doing deals there. When I was listening to their hearings, I was thinking, man, that Biden guy, he's a real smart guy. I couldn't figure out how to make all this money off of China on the back door without anybody finding out. Now it turns out they're saying, oh, no, that's not what we meant. We meant he was a doddering old fool who can't put a sentence together. I mean, if they were really onto this game, they would have been playing this game. I don't remember them playing it. Am I wrong, Leon?
Let me make one quick statement.
Go ahead.
You know who did know? Trump. Several months ago, they said, hey, Trump, is Biden out to get you? And Trump said, no, Biden doesn't even know he's in the White House. So Trump was the only one that actually was onto it a long time ago.
Not Stefanik. Exactly. Wilmer, I'm sorry. Go ahead. Finish us up before we go to break.
No.
Yeah.
Well, no, they knew it. I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt and say that they were months ago erring on concern for the country.
Okay.
In terms of not wanting to expose the commander-in-chief as being non-compos mentis. But now that they are in the grips of a campaign and they see blood in the water or chum on the surface, they're going after it like sharks.
Did you say non-compos mentis?
I did.
Wow. Man.
Your Highness, I did.
I am the queen. Well, that's why we invite you guys on, because we learn new words, if nothing else. We're gonna take a quick break, and we're gonna be right back. Don't go away. Okay, here we go. Gentlemen, are you ready? Because we are getting ready to start the best part of this particular show. It's where we really tackle some of the most significant issues, including some of the toils of the vice president as well. Welcome back. U.S. President Joe Biden actually seems to think that he's not the president of the United States, but rather the president of the whole entire world. I was so curious about the debates the other day, guys, I decided to turn it back on. My wife can't stand me ever since this debate because I keep going back to this stuff, and she wants to watch one of the series we like to watch. So I watched the debate for the third time, and I found something in the debate I hadn't caught before. And I want to share this with you. Take a listen to this that everyone seemed to gloss over. It's Joe Biden during the debate during the interview with Stephanopoulos. Sorry, I got those two mixed up. They ran concurrently. Here he is with the interview with Stephanopoulos. See if you caught this. Go.
Everything I do, not only am I campaigning, but I'm running the world.
I run the world. When I hadn't caught that before. And again, I went back and listened to the interview with Stephanopoulos, and I caught that and thought, you run the world? Go ahead, Wilmer, you start. What do you think of that?
Well, Garland and I did catch that, by the way.
You guys,
and
I can't get one on you. I can't get one on you.
Well, we work as a team. So it's imperialism. He fully is still reading the headlines about American exceptionalism and America as the indispensable nation and all of those worn out tropes that no longer exist. So he's reading and still believing America's own press clippings.
It's disrespectful and it's insulting for anyone listening. That happens to be something that probably was being watched all over the world. I mean, Garland, if you're the president of whatever, country A, B, C, D, name your country, and you hear the president of the United States say that, he didn't say the free world, by the way, because I've mentioned this to people. He says, well, he meant the free world. Well, he didn't say the free world. He said the world, right?
Yeah, and there's a personal element to this where Joe Biden is not just saying, America, we hear this, America's the greatest country, all that kind of, hubristic imperialist stuff. But he personally says, I run the world. And this kind of arrogance and hubris is particularly why he won't get out. Why should I get out? I am the emperor of the world. I'm the most powerful person in the world. No one tells me what to do. That was a slip of the tongue. But, oftentimes a slip of the tongue kind of lets people know what we really think. And Joe Biden really is a conceited guy, and he's not very bright, but he thinks he's the most powerful man in the world. He's been hoping for this his entire life, and now he's finally got it. He's not going to let go easily.
I'm glad you said that, because I got that from that interview too. I'd never seen that part of Joe Biden. His ego is the size of Montana. I came away from the interview that he did with Stephanopoulos, and I went, wow, I'm the greatest. Nobody could do this. If not for me, forget about it. There's nobody else that can replace me. I run the world. I do this. I said, who is this guy? I never knew he was quite like that. I don't know if they wrote that into him and it came out, but you guys are right. I mean, that's essentially what he said. And by the way, even if you are the boss, it's not good to go around telling people you are. You don't stand in front of all your employees and say, I just want everybody here to know that I control your lives. Even if you're the boss, you don't need to do that. It's just, it's not a smart move. Let's let that go. Next, Biden's comments. Also especially disrespectful to world leaders who are forging new alliances, like BRICS, for example, specifically because of those specific hegemonic comments. Speaking of forging friendships, I do want to show you some images. And I hate that I have to even say this again and again and again, but it's kind of important. Images that my fellow Americans will probably not see, because here in this country, you see, we don't show these things in the media. We don't show you anything that ever humanizes countries like Russia or China or even India, for that matter. But here's a piece of video I found frankly interesting. It's the president of Russia giving a tour of his residence to the president of India. Here it is. Now, I think this is particularly cool as we watch the pictures because, the image that we have of these two men, Putin in particular, and Xi, and the president of Iran, is that they don't do normal things. They don't talk to people. They don't show their pets to people. They don't drive around, and they don't have wives and children and lives, because they're not like our leaders, you see. So I thought this was important to show. And nobody in America will ever see this. Nobody in America even knows what Putin thinks or says, or for that matter, what President Modi says, Garland.
Yeah, because they're pictured through the propaganda as caricatures of politicians, of caricatures of the evil person. I think one of the things that we've seen recently, and what I would consider brilliant diplomatic moves, is with the leaders of Russia and China hugging each other, calling each other dear friends, old friends, doing these types of things. I think it's important because it shows to the people of those countries that there's not just a diplomatic or an economic bond, but there's a cultural bond, and they want to show friendship and mend ties. I think what's really important now is the ability of Russia to mend the ties between China and India. I think if Russia's able to do that, that will be really a world-changing feat.
Yeah, imagine that, huh? I mean, Wilmer, if China's able to mend the ties somehow and come up with some deal between Ukraine and Russia, and then Russia is able to kind of mend the ties and come up with some kind of deal between India and China, wow. While NATO's sitting there glad-handing itself and patting itself on the back, that'd be a hell of a thing.
Well, a couple of things. One, it's a lot of this is about optics, and you talked about what we see and what we don't see.
Yeah.
And we don't see the footage that you just presented, because it's a matter of being demonized versus being humanized. And so what we saw was a human side of these two men and their relationship. To the point about China and India, I would say that rapprochement is already in the works, which is why Modi went to President Putin's home. And I think it's also important to see that as we look at NATO and the 75th celebration of that failing entity, remember, there's the SCO, the Shanghai Cooperation Organization. There's BRICS. There's the Sahel States collaboration. We have now shifted from the unipolar to the multipolar, and there's no turning back.
So as we get ready to close this segment, I'm left with this. Basically the situation at hand, as we would say, right? The president appears to be seeing a Parkinson's expert, while now we hear the vice president, Kamala Harris, appears to be somewhat in la-la land. Here's a spoof that I want you guys to see. This was put together by none other than Comedy Central. Let's watch.
Talking about the significance of the passage of time, right? The significance of the passage of time. So when you think about it, there is great significance to the passage of time.
Seems like maybe it's a small issue, it's a big issue. You need to get to go, and need to be able to get where you need to go to do the work and get home.
It is time for us to do what we have been doing, and that time is every day.
Every day it is time for us to agree that
she's come so far since our first session. I lead the vice president on not so much sentences as idea voyages.
You think you just fell out of a coconut tree? You exist in the context of all in which you live and what came before you.
I don't know about you, but when I get hit by a coconut that falls off a tree, and I live in South Florida, I got a lot of coconuts. I'm not thinking about the passage of time. I'm thinking about cutting that damn tree down. That's what I'm thinking about. I don't know, fellas. I mean, she, you know, as we say in the South, she ain't helping herself there, Garland. She ain't helping herself.
It's a whole lot easier to follow Joe Biden's train of thought than it is Kamala Harris. And that's the sad state of affairs. And the bottom line is this is where the Democratic Party has landed after rigging the election twice, after it really admittedly rigging the election twice, and then simply picking Kamala Harris because she's a, quote, woman of color, and she checks all the boxes except the box of competency. And now they are stuck with a person who has dementia and a woman woman who exhibits all the signs of dementia. She just probably doesn't, technically have it, but maybe she's had it her whole life in one form or another.
Wilmer, I know you kind of have a relationship with her, and I don't mean that it's sexual. Wait, let me take that back. You have known her for many years. You've met her, you've known her, you've had conversations with her. You think she's very likable, as you've said to me in the past. She's just not playing this hand well, though, my friend, and maybe you need to call her and tell her that.
Because she doesn't know the card game that's being played, and she really doesn't know how to play cards.
She needs to bring a coconut. Sorry, go on.
No, there's really not much to say here. This is what happened. This is the politics of pandering. This is when Joe Biden decides that this is going to be his running mate because there's a particular constituency or constituencies that he believes that he has to pander to, and competence is not the most significant item or element on your list of criteria.
Yeah, you don't go from just being a DA in California to suddenly being a vice president of the United States and understanding geopolitics, because she obviously doesn't, right? I mean, that's the point. Yeah. You got to be ready for a gig.
Go back to the Lester Holt.
Huh?
Go back to the Lester Holt interview.
Yeah.
No, she doesn't. No.
Guys,
and I would add this. They particularly picked her because she is malleable, because she's not a person with knowledge, and she's not going to take a position. She's going to do what she's told. And that's why she's there.
Yeah, and it shows. Gentlemen, what a great opportunity to have a great conversation. Always enjoyable. You're smart and you're easy to get along with, and you're good friends as well. My thanks to both of you for joining us, and continue your success. That's our show. Remember to always look outside your own box. Truths, they don't live in boxes. By golly, I'm Rick Sanchez. We'll be looking for you next time.
What do foreign leaders or allies think of President Biden right now?
They don't think he can serve another 4 years.
The allies in this room not only share a common language, don't share a common language, we do not share a common border, but we are neighbors. We're neighbors.
What do foreign leaders or allies think of President Biden right now?
Destroy Ukraine's culture.
We need to take many steps to move towards ending the war. But the first important step we've taken today, restoring dialogue.
We're grateful to the Prime Minister for coming to Moscow. We see this as an attempt to restore dialogue and move it on.
What do foreign leaders or allies think of President Biden right now?
We need to take many steps to move towards ending the war.
Destroy Ukraine's culture.
What do foreign leaders or allies think of President Biden right now? What do foreign leaders or allies think of President Biden right now?
They don't think he can serve another 4 years.
What do foreign leaders or allies think of President Biden right now? What do foreign leaders or allies think of President Biden right now?
They don't think he can serve another 4 years. 4 years. Serve another 4 years.
What do foreign leaders or allies think of President Biden right now?
They don't think he can serve another 4 years. And I will say that is true of every leader that I have met with that's attending the NATO summit. Doesn't matter if they come from the right or the left wing of their respective political spectrums. This isn't news to them. They've reported this from the G7 summit. They talked about this when they met with the president in Normandy. It's not that they don't like him. In fact, they're deeply concerned.
The allies in this room not only share a common language, don't share a common language, we do not share a common border, but we are neighbors. We're neighbors. Destroy Ukraine's culture.
We need to take many steps to move towards ending the war. But the first important step we've taken today, restoring dialogue.
We're grateful to the Prime Minister for coming to Moscow. We see this as an attempt to restore dialogue and move it on.
¿Qué tal, Jose? Good, good. Nice, nice. I don't. No, because then I'll never get it back. Thank you.
Yes, I can hear you. Sure. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Okay.
Of machinery or mechanism or tool, like I imagine a carpenter or something. If you want to know how should I make this tool, call one. Don't just like make a mic clip. Say, who uses mic clips? Well, sound people and people. It's like, I know. It's like, why would you make a mic clip that big? We struggle every day to get a wire into it. Yeah. Somewhere along the line it changed, Peyton. All right, are we checking in Manila? Manila first? Oh, hey, Manila, how are you?
Hey, it's our Friday.
I guess, right? Hi, Marwa, how are you?
Hello. Hello, Manila.
Hi, Marwa.
Manilita.
You have two M women joining you on this, our fake Friday.
Oh, my God, I'm honored. Finally,
The honor is only.
The finer sex, the more intelligent sex, the only people left in this world that can possibly save it from all these idiot men.
No, I don't know about that.
That all they want to do is start wars and crap.
No, they're talking about Hillary Clinton trotting her back out, so I don't think so.
Yeah, is that the new? You know what? Every day I hear a different. I heard just today. I heard Oprah. I heard George Clooney. I heard Hillary Clinton. I heard. I mean, what do you think, Marwa? Who will be the next Democratic candidate?
I'll be honest with you. Whoever it is, there's not going to be an election.
Really? What? Wait. Don't. What? Why?
Like Ukraine? We're going to go to martial law?
Save it for the show.
Yeah, that's what I think. Yeah, that's what I think. But that's just me speaking 9,000 miles away.
Yeah, yeah. All right. All right, let's do this. Let's have some fun. Let's go. Here we go. Hey, everybody, I'm Rick Sanchez, and here we go. This is Direct Impact, and this is what we're going to be talking about today.
What do foreign leaders or allies think of President Biden right now?
They don't think he can serve another 4 years.
To me, but when you were talking to everybody else. The whole time, yeah. No, that's okay. That's okay. You're good. Let's do it. I know. We need a signal for me to be able to tell you. Okay, here we go. I'm Rick Sanchez. This is Direct Impact, and this is what we're going to be talking about.
What do foreign leaders or allies think of President Biden right now?
They don't think he can serve another 4 years.
Wow, there you have it. The Biden report card from the NATO summit. Ain't good, especially after another bizarre gaffe. I'm Rick Sanchez. Get ready for a Direct Impact. Let's do it. Hey, everybody out there. I'm Rick Sanchez. So good to see you. This is Direct Impact, and this is what we're going to be talking about.
What do foreign leaders or allies think of President Biden right now?
They don't think he can serve another 4 years.
Yeah, and it gets worse. That's pretty much the Biden report card right now from the NATO summit. It isn't good, especially after another bizarre gaffe. I'm Rick Sanchez. Get ready for a Direct Impact. Let's do it. You know, as I was watching some of these videos that we're going to be talking about, I thought to myself, you know, I've done this a couple times in my life. It's not that hard, right? It's not hard to do a toast. It's pretty simple, really, all things considered. For example, if you or I were hosting NATO leaders, we'd probably say something like, you know, here's to a better, more peaceful world, and may we continue working together to somehow try and achieve that, right? I mean, that's basically all you need to say. It's pretty easy, right? No. It's not easy. It's not easy. It's not easy for this guy, for the President of the United States, Mr. Joe Biden. In fact, here he goes again.
The allies in this room not only share a common language, don't share a common language. We do not share a common border, but we are neighbors. We're neighbors.
What? We don't speak the same language, but we do speak the same language, and we do have borders, but we don't, and we're... Look, did you notice what I noticed there, by the way? Did you see his head? His head was down the whole time. That means he was reading that. That means somebody had to write that for him, and God bless him, he still screwed it up, right? He also stumbled pronouncing the name of the country that he has paid way more attention to than even his own country, the United States. Watch here as he's speaking to all the world leaders, and he forgets how to say Ukraine. And then watch, because we've got more video, he slow walks off the stage. Watch what they saw.
Destroy Ukraine's culture.
I've said this before. I hate having to play these videos, but he is the President of the United States, and it is what it is, and I'm not making it up. He did say, destroy Uranus. I mean, my goodness. So after watching that, what are the European leaders of NATO saying privately? Ian Bremmer is the president of the Eurasia Group. Usually a friend to Democrats, by the way, and no big peace hawk or no big peacemaker, more of a hawk. So he's paid to know the answer to what leaders are thinking of the President of the United States, and watch what he says.
What do foreign leaders or allies think of President Biden right now?
They don't think he can serve another 4 years. And I will say that is true of every leader that I have met with that's attending the NATO summit. Doesn't matter if they come from the right or the left wing of their respective political spectrums. This isn't news to them. They've reported this from the G7 summit. They talked about this when they met with the president in Normandy. It's not that they don't like him. In fact, they're deeply concerned.
That's pretty much the Biden news on this day. Manila, let me bring you in at this point for your commentary.
Oh boy, Rick, all of that is just becoming more and more increasingly difficult to see, this kind of video. And like I said, at this point, I have to almost detach the way I think of Joe Biden as the president of our country and more as just a human. And this human is aging and declining rapidly right before our very eyes. And what Ian Bremmer is saying there, Ian Bremmer, for those who don't know, is a very well-respected in these Washington circles here, very well-respected think tank guy. He usually has his finger right on the pulse of what all the brains here in Washington are saying and what they're thinking. I tend to agree with what he says. The report card basically is from all of these different NATO leaders and all the people, the supporting figures. I think Ian Bremmer has nailed this one. And like you said, Rick, he ain't shy. He's not shy about what he thinks about Russia, especially in these last couple of years. And this is where he's at, that it doesn't seem like Biden has any support from anybody anymore. You know, the interesting part about all this is the timing could not have been more fascinating this week, really more ironic this week, because, you know, as these NATO leaders, right, are meeting to try and figure out how to divide the world a little more with threats against China and Russia and India and Iran and all the other countries that they think are bad, and they're all great, but they're all bad, whatever. One European leader is catching hell from those people for doing just the opposite, right? So Hungary's Viktor Orban this week thinks it's time to start a dialogue with Russia about ending the war in Ukraine. Probably not a bad idea, I think. I don't know, maybe I'm crazy. So this guy goes out and he meets with the Russian President Putin to talk about just that. Here it is.
We need to take many steps to move towards ending the war. But the first important step we've taken today, restoring dialogue.
We're grateful to the Prime Minister for coming to Moscow. We see this as an attempt to restore dialogue and move it on.
So why is Orban doing this? By the way, he just spoke to Zelensky, too, so it's not like he's just going over to talk to President Putin. He's doing so as the president of the European Union Council. It's a rotating position. He's going to hold it for the next 6 months, then they're going to give it to some other leader. And what's the reaction from NATO after they saw what he did? And what's the reaction from the rest of the EU? Basically this. How dare you go and talk to Putin, you appeaser, you. That's basically what, here it is. Here's the EU. Ursula von der Leyen tweeted this. Appeasement will not stop Putin, she tweets. Only unity and determination will do that. So wait, Manila. Here's what I'm seeing here, right? Let me get this right? So, conversation, dialogue, and negotiations, bad. Threats, insults, war, good. Isn't that what she's saying? I mean, again, call me crazy if I'm wrong.
You nailed it. It's like Rick, you nailed it. You have learned to speak broadly this new European language of war. And that's exactly what it is. I mean, it's like upside down world that we're living in. In what world have we ever existed that dialogue is bad? Why is it bad that Orban is not only, you know, the president of Hungary, that is a neighboring country to Russia, but, you know, at the moment he is the sitting president of the council as it rotates the presidential seat.
Yeah.
He's in charge, but they made it very quickly the point to say he's there on his own as Hungary's president and not our group president at the moment. They wanted to distance themselves very quickly because Orban is talking about peace. The rest of the EU wants to talk about war and death and destruction. And this is just the world that we're in now in 2024, Rick. I can't understand it. I can't unpack that for you any further. I don't understand.
Yeah, it's like many of us in this world are looking at this and just scratching our heads and saying, what in the hell are they talking about? What is wrong with having a conversation with a country about a peace deal? That's bad? Wow. Okay, before I let you go, and we get to our incredibly smart guest today, like you, by the way. It finally happened, Manila. A Democratic president has lost Hollywood. Yes, Hollywood elites are turning, and they're seeming to, you know, these guys have always backed the Democratic candidates, or for the most part, they've always backed Democratic candidates. I know LBJ was different and stuff like that because of the Vietnam War, but looky here at what just happened. George Clooney just announced on Twitter he's out, no longer a Biden supporter. Quote, he says or writes, it's devastating to say it, but the Joe Biden that I was with 3 weeks ago at the fundraiser was not the Joe effing deal. The big effing Joe, big effing, I don't even know what that means, but whatever, of 2010. He wasn't even the Joe Biden of 2020, he writes. He was the same man we all witnessed during the debate. So he's saying essentially that he now thinks that Joe Biden is a doddering old man who shouldn't be the president. And I do wonder as I watch this, and I ask myself, then why didn't he say it then if he saw it then? Instead, he was trying to convince everybody he knows to give millions of dollars to the guy, and now he's saying, oops, take your money back, guys, I was wrong. What do you make of Clooney coming out and suddenly turning on Biden?
Well, a couple of points here, Rick. First, if I were Biden, I would say, A2, Brute, A2. But in
you
this
too,
case,
Brutus?
Biden, yes. In this case, Joe Biden is Julius Caesar and Brutus is stabbing him in the back. And here is George Clooney as well as Barack Obama. Apparently, the two had been colluding behind the scenes before George Clooney put out that op-ed to New York Times where he goes into detail about why he's no longer supporting a Biden nomination. George Clooney has been a longtime Democrat Party man. I don't think it matters specifically who is in the seat, who's in the hot chair for the DNC ticket. He's just a DNC guy. And you know, Hollywood loves George Clooney. He's the #1 leading man. Women swoon all around the world. And people are starting to float the idea that perhaps George Clooney should take over because he's got this long history of being political and humanitarian. And look at how beautiful the White House would look being represented by George Clooney and Amal, his wife, who is this, you know, international human rights attorney, you know, very well known, very well spoken. She's got that great British accent. So people are floating this idea abound in the past 24 hours. And it wouldn't be the first time that we've elected an actor to the Oval Office.
So,
Rick.
no, yeah, there was this guy, I think his name was Reagan, right? Ronald Reagan? Yeah.
That's right.
As I recall. But, George Clooney,
by the
president.
Way,
wow.
By the way, Rick, all that money that he hauled in, the biggest one-night fundraiser haul in presidential history, is what I understand, almost $30 million in one night. All that money goes into the DNC coffers. It's not a Joe Biden thing. Like here's $28 million,
exactly.
Joe
It's not,
Biden.
Yeah, right. It's for
they
the party.
get to keep it.
Well, I just recalled Shakespeare's famous line when he described Brutus sticking that dagger in Caesar's back. And it does remind me of what some might say in the Biden camp about what Clooney's doing now. what Clooney's doing now. It was called The Unkindest Cut of All. Remember? Literature?
Yes, that is
College?
absolutely
Yeah,
right.
second year. Yeah, Professor Thorpe. We're done. Have a great weekend.
Have a great weekend.
When we come back, we are going to take you to Beirut. International journalist, TV host, writer, commentator, Marwa Orwan. Sorry about that. Osman is going to join us from what came to be known as the Paris of the Middle East. Please don't go away. She's good, she's smart, and she's going to be right back with us. Hey, welcome back. I'm Rick Sanchez, and let me tell you a little bit about Marwa Osman. She is the host of Mideast Stream on Press TV. She writes about all types of world affairs with a special interest oftentimes and expertise on the Middle East, and she's good enough to join us right now from Beirut. Thank you so much, Marwa, for taking time to join us.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me, Rick.
So I guess we should probably start. I have a million questions for you. I've been reading a lot of your material. You write some fascinating stuff. I like that column you wrote a couple of weeks ago about how or why the Middle East has or has not been able to come together to speak out on Gaza. And I do want to get to that. But let's start with, you know, the subject at hand, if it will, and that's everything going on right now with NATO and the condition of our president, respectfully, President Biden. What do you make of that, and what do you think the world is making of that?
Well, living at least 8,500 or 9,000 miles away, Rick, we look at what's going on in the United States of America as a complete showdown. And the showdown is not between two contenders. It's actually between the deep state and what we've been seeing since the Cold War, the thing that the regime, the establishment that usually goes up to the people, to the public, and showcases governing or authority, and the deep state that is really in a conundrum at the moment. And it's shown in how much confused they are. They're more confused than Biden himself. What to do with him? Are they going to choose someone else? Are they going to go someone out of the establishment? Are they going to wait and let him lose the elections? And if he loses the elections, if there is an election, we were talking about that earlier, that I personally don't think that there will be elections, but that's only me. I have my reasons to think that.
No, you can't just say that and keep going. What do you mean that there may not be an election? Define.
Well, I'll start with the facts that we have. I think that the DNC does not have really the time at its hand at the moment to change the candidate, and at the same time, they cannot allow Donald Trump to win. He's obviously a convicted felon, but at the same time, he's a person who will facilitate the or accelerate, if you will, the losing factors, the losing variables for the United States of America abroad. I'm talking about resources, I'm talking about imperialism, colonialism, and I'm talking about also the relationship with the European Union and other allies as well, because Trump was very good at breaking those alliances.
Yes.
And added to that, there's also the other factor that's brewing inside of the United States of America on different levels, at the social level, at the economic level, at the level of illegal immigrants, at the level of homelessness, at the level of people are not being able to pay their bills at the end of the month and whatnot. So the U.S. has its own deep problems inside, and it has a lot of problems outside, and they have managed to show us that they cannot manage those problems.
Right.
And what I mean by saying so is, if you look at the Ukraine for the past year and a half, and then you look at the genocide going on in Gaza for the past 10 months, you could probably see clearly that the United States of America, the only thing that it was successful in is to bring out the bombs and deliver to both Ukraine and Israel. But they were not able to bring an end for the genocide, for the humanitarian catastrophe on both sides of the world. I'm not only talking about Gaza, I'm also talking about Ukraine and Russia.
But almost everything, almost
all of that.
Okay, you're getting. I was going to try and say. So, what does that have to do with elections or not having elections? Go
exactly.
ahead.
When we look at all of that, that gives us an idea of how weak and late the DNC is in trying to change Biden or trying to at least maybe push the elections away. They can do either. And because of that, they are not willing to lose the elections, which is why they will go to option 2 or plan B for that matter. And that is going into emergency status in the United States of America, which gives the sitting president more authority and more time to handle the regime, to handle the establishment, to go on and govern for probably 2 more years if he's still alive. We don't know, but he's not governing. He's not been governing for the past 2 years to begin with.
Right.
So that would give him at least from 6 months to 2 years. And that is the case that I see. There's also the case that would help calling for an emergency in the United States of America, which is the possible and probable clashes that we might be seeing in the streets of very important states, very important capital states in the United States of America, where people have had it with each other. The fracture, but the division between both camps is so deep that no one can restore to a point that even that fracture will be seen within the authority itself. We have seen sheriffs, we have seen police deputies standing with Trump and saying that whatever happens, he's going to be president. And on the other side, you have people saying the same. That's very risky when it happens at the level directly of the public.
So, but let's follow your enthymeme if we could, and try and make it as logical as it, because there is some logic to your enthymeme that the deep state in the United States will make a determination that it's too important to keep Biden in the White House because that way they can control the foreign policy and many of the other things you mentioned. They pull the plug, take the nuclear option, if we can call it that, and say, we're canceling the election. The moment they do that, 50% of the country goes out into the streets, and there will be riots, and there will be disturbances, and there will be all but a civil war. It may be a little bit too much to call it a civil war. At that point, then you have the government saying, now because of that situation, now we do have to declare an emergency, a national emergency, and there will be no election. Right.
There's also another scenario. Yeah, and there's another scenario. If we actually go to elections and Trump ends up winning, and then something happens to not allow Trump to get there, or something worse happens, Trump actually wins, but he doesn't get there because the election is rigged. There are a lot of options that can happen to make sure that Trump doesn't get there. And whichever option you take, Rick, it's going to be a catastrophe. I'm not going to call it a civil war, but I'm going to call it a civil unrest.
Now, yeah, I totally disagree with your proposition. I think in the end that they will most likely just have Mr. Biden, I think Mr. Obama and Mr. Clinton and Mrs. Clinton and we'll sit down with Jill Biden and explain to her that she needs to convince her Biden to step down. He will take his delegates and give them back. They will choose a person, maybe George Clooney, maybe Oprah Winfrey, maybe Michelle Obama, maybe the governor of California or the governor of Michigan, and then that person will be trounced out, and they'll spend a month getting them to say horrible things about Mr. Trump. And I think that will be the election. At least that's most likely what I think could happen. But none of us know because we're not God and we don't know what's going to happen in the future.
Sure.
But it's you know, it's a heck of a thing. I do want to, I'm wondering where you're going personally with this as you describe Mr. Trump. Do you believe, as someone who writes about this and is really smart at looking at U.S. foreign policy, do you believe Mr. Trump's foreign policy will be better at controlling the so-called deep state than Mr. Biden has been?
Well, we've seen how Trump was governing the situation when he won the presidency, and he was actually one of the factors that pushed back the war, that actually delayed the war between Russia and Ukraine. Not the fact that I don't like the man. He's for me, he's, I'm sorry to say, American maybe viewers watching, but Trump for me is a terrorist because he killed a lot in my area, and he killed leaders in the resistance that I believe in and follow. But that aside, when we look at the foreign policy that Trump was taking, it was a more, despite the fact that he was a funny comedic president, but he took a lot of open relationships with China, with Russia, even with NATO, to a point that I saw that it was logical for him to ask NATO to pay as much as the US is paying, because that's only fair. Because at the end of the day, NATO is there to protect Europe, and the US is paying more than Europe. So that's logical, but the way that he puts it is usually that not diplomatic and not nice, but that's the thought of it is logical. So when we look at the foreign policy during Trump, it was actually a success compared to the catastrophe that has been happening for the past 4 years, and to the number of people who died in Ukraine and in Russia and in Gaza and in Lebanon. And
yeah, it is confounding and it is somewhat perplexing because in many ways, for example, he seemed to all but sleep in the same bed with Bibi Netanyahu and let him do whatever the hell he wanted to do, which is troubling from a foreign policy standpoint. And yet on some issues, you're right, but like Ukraine, he was much more...
Genocide Joe did worse.
He was much more sensible. So yeah, it's a mixed bag, and I don't think you're wrong. I think that's a fair assessment.
People keep saying, Rick, people keep reminding us that during the Trump era, we saw the declaration, the Abraham Accords being signed with a couple of Arab states. But come on, when were there these Arab states ever in direct contact with the Israeli entity? They always had friendships with the Israeli entity, but they never really were open about it, and they became open about it in when Trump was president. But what Biden did in the matter of 10 months is much, much worse than what Trump did with these accords that were signed. These were just papers that were signed. But what Trump did was send weapons to kill my family, to kill Palestinians, to destroy my house. I've been displaced for the past 10 months, Rick. That's because of the United States of America.
I'm so sorry about that. I'm not responsible, but I feel terrible that you even have to describe that to us. By the way, we're down to a minute, and I read that column you wrote about what the Arab world is going to do about the situation in Gaza. Is the Arab world doing enough? What can it do? We're down to a minute. I'm sorry. I'm going to get you back, and we're going to have this conversation at depth.
No problem.
Please share with me a perspective on what you think about that.
When we say Arab world, we need to define which Arab world are we talking about? The one that is allied to Israel, or the one that is actually fighting Israel?
Great question.
If we're talking about those allied with Israel, especially those surrounding Palestine, Jordan and Egypt, they are actually protecting the Zionist entity. They're protecting Israel. Wow. They're even protecting Israel diplomatically and only militarily. And militarily, we saw that, what happened when Jordan actually used its air defense systems to down the missiles that were coming from Iran to target Israeli entity. But when we talk about the Arab world that is actually fighting Israel, there's Iraq, Syria, Lebanon, Yemen, and there's Palestine itself. And what we've seen for the past 10 months, Rick, is something that I personally, despite the fact that I believe in those states and what they are doing, it was a surprise for me. It was a surprise to see the USS Eisenhower being hit in the Red Sea. It was a surprise to see Zionist Israel being defeated in South Lebanon, to a point that now 20 kilometers away from the border with South Lebanon, there are no settlers anymore. And to see that Hezbollah has gained so much power that Zionist Israel is now really thinking about finding a ceasefire and a solution solution to end all of these risks at all of these multiple fronts. So yes, the Arab world has done enough, but the Arab regimes will never, they have never and will never do enough for anyone, even their own people.
Marwa Osman, what a delight to talk to you. We're going to get you back, and we're going to drill even deeper into a lot of these topics, including Yemen, further look at Hezbollah, what's going on as well inside of the Israeli government. So much to talk about. Thank you so much for taking time to spend some time with us. We appreciate it. And that is our show. Remember, always look outside your own box. Truths, they don't live in boxes. I'm Rick Sanchez, and we'll be looking for you next time.